Welcome to Football Game Plan Scout Team. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you some coverage from the 2020 Reese Senior Bowl here in Mobile, Alabama. This is the last stop on our scouting trip for the All-Star Game season. We were at the Tropical Bowl in Daytona Beach as well as the EastWest Shrine Bowl last week. So before we get into what we're doing here at the Reese Senior Bowl, let's take a look at some of the sights, some of the sounds, and some of the standouts from both the Tropical Bowl as well as the EastWest Shrine Bowl. The 2020 Tropical Bowl in Daytona Beach was the first stop on my Florida scouting trip, and as with the College Gridiron Showcase, this year's edition of the Tropical Bowl was a huge success on the field. Founded by Michael Quartet, Esquire of East Preps LLC, the Tropical Bowl's mission is to gather a collection of the top mid-major to small college football talent across the country and get them to perform at their best in front of NFL, CFL, and also XFL scouts. One of the guys that stood out was wide receiver Jamari Hester of Jacksonville State. The 6'7" wideout had a ton of interest from NFL scouts after practice, and I was able to catch up with him to get his thoughts on the week and what he was wanting to showcase out there at the Tropical Bowl.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me.
No problem, man. First thing you stand out, height, right? But yes, I feel like people just see that and say, okay, cool, tall, get outside. Just like in basketball, say, okay, cool, tall, get in the post. But there's a lot about your game that requires a lot of nuance. I think you can play inside or out. What do you think you're being underrated as a prospect, as a receiver?
Being an efficient route runner, being able to get in and out of my cuts, I feel like that's really underrated in my game.
And you see it all the time because you're able to transition in and out of your breaks real well, very smooth and fluid. And a lot of parts of playing the receiver position is being able to run routes. You know, do you think people see that size and try to, one, be physical and play up, or they're afraid of that physical size and then they'll back off, which allows you to get in and out of your breaks?
I have some guys that, step up and want to be physical and try to press up, but I use my long arms and beat them to the point before they could reach and get me. And I had the same guys that like to press off, and I fake them out with a couple head fakes, misdirection, and make them think I'm going one way and come back the other way.
You look at your game at Jacksonville State, man, you got to spread the field, but you also can run the football. But I think you played more of a pro-style offense than people gave you guys credit for. How beneficial was it to play at Jacksonville State, and how you think that helped you grow into a pro prospect?
It was very beneficial to play at Jacksonville State because they gave me the opportunity, because I never had the opportunity to play wide receiver, and they gave me 4 years to develop my game and become who I am today, and I appreciate everything they've done for me.
How hard is it to not go from playing wide receiver to go to the Division I level and try to get up to speed with guys that have been playing that position their whole life?
I mean, it's a hard task to swallow. It takes a lot of time and effort, but if you really want it, you'll get to it and grind every day.
Now, we're out here at the Tropical Bowl, and it's an all-star event. You're out here with guys. So you've played against the FBS program, so it's not anything new to you. But how important is it for you to come out here and showcase the scouts what's going on with your game and where they can see progress moving forward?
I mean, it's great to show that I could beat any and every DB out here because I never went against so many D1 prospects because I'm used to going, against one LSU a year or one big FBS school a year. So being able to go against a FBS, top elite guy every rep is a blessing. It's honestly the greatest thing to be able to compete with these guys, and it's been a fun time out here.
Yeah, you've had a great week. You've done a lot, both catching the football, red zone, out in 7-on-7, one-on-ones. You did great all week long. When you look at the game and talking about the progress you made from year 1 to year 4, what do you think the biggest thing football has taught you in general?
The biggest thing football has taught me is basically to never give up on what you want to chase in your life, because maybe it may be a road bump or a roadblock in your way, but if you fight through it and break through it, you'll reach to what you're trying to get to. You'll accomplish your goals.
Final question for me. I know I cover a lot of the FCS. People always tend to sleep on the OVC, and you guys do a great job. Eastern Kentucky is a real good football team.
Yes,
Tennessee
sir.
State a good football team. How good is that conference from top to bottom?
That conference has came a long way from my freshman year till now. It's been a lot more competition than that now, and I can't wait to check them out this year. It's gonna be.
Moving on to St. Petersburg, Florida, where the EastWest Shrine Bowl has come a long way since its humble beginnings. Prior to 1925, the event was a baseball game in San Francisco played by the Islam Shriners and the Elks. While the game raised money for the organization's charities, Shriners team captain E. Jack Spalding was convinced that they could generate more exposure for the organization, so he came up with the idea to switch sports, determining that a college football all-star game might be more successful, and the concept of the EastWest Shrine game was born with the proceeds benefiting the Shriners Hospital for Children. Now in this bowl, which made it unique, there were a couple of guys that were call-ups from the College Gridiron Showcase and the Tropical Bowl. So we caught up with one guy from the College Gridiron Showcase, Isaiah Swan of Dartmouth.
Be here.
First saw you play against Yale on a Friday night, I believe, and I was like, man, this dude has really good instincts, patient, drives on the football, and gets his hands on the ball. When you look at your patience, I think that's something that a lot of DBs tend to struggle with, but you don't. How important is that, and where did that development come from?
I think it started in high school. I had Coach Scott as my DB coach down at Chandler High School. And he just kind of taught me the fundamentals of being a cornerback. And like one of the main things he preached was patience. Like the receiver's going to do everything he can to get you, off your game, but you just got to stay patient at the end of the day. So.
Ball skills are another big part of your game. You take the ball away, which is what I love, because defensive backs that don't find the ball, don't take the ball away, I have no use for them. But you do the same thing. You take the ball away and you know what to do with it once you get it. When you're talking about interceptions and getting your hands on the ball, does that tie into your patience?
Yeah, it does a little bit. Just the anticipation of routes. Like I can tell by how the receivers take off, like what they're about to run, where the quarterback wants to go with the ball, things like that. So I just try to anticipate, and I end up being in the right spot a majority of the time. So
now you played on a really great defense at Dartmouth, and people underestimate how good the Ivy League football is as a whole, top to bottom. Can you explain how good Dartmouth is, number one, and how great was it to play in the Ivy League and the strength top to bottom?
Yeah, I think people don't give a lot of credit to the Ivy League because they can't play in the FCS playoffs. I feel like if we were allowed to play in that tournament, people would recognize the talent and the strength of the teams that are in there. I'm sure we could have went a couple rounds, probably even, I feel like we could have went to the championship, played North Dakota State, but that's just me. Yeah, hopefully they'll let us in the playoffs sometime soon and we can show. So.
Players and coaches definitely want. I know people just want to.
I don't know who's making the decisions.
I'm not gonna put nobody on blast, but I really want to make it work. When you look at, you're here at the EastWest Shrine Bowl, but we saw each other, I want to say a week ago, at the College Gridiron Showcase.
Yeah.
You stood out there in the scrimmage. How critical was that All-Star game for you to help get this opportunity to play here in the EastWest Shrine Bowl?
Yeah, so I missed the first 3 games, so I feel like, some hype for me died down a little bit. It was good to get into the showcase, show what I could do. I guess these guys out here enjoyed what I did, so I upgraded and got up in here. So, it's a great opportunity for me as well. So
we'll take a quick commercial break and be back with more Scout Team here on the Game Plus Network. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Ninth and Lux. Visit the website ninethandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music with featured artist IW and his latest album, Season 2. You can check that out on iTunes as well as doyoumusic.com. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app. Welcome back to Football Game Plan Scout Team here on the Game Plus Network. Now, the Baltimore Ravens have a quarterback by the name of Lamar Jackson who should take home the NFL's MVP after a stellar season this year for his Ravens squad. Also, here in the 2020 Reese's Senior Bowl, there's another guy by the name of Lamar Jackson who plays cornerback coming from the Nebraska Cornhuskers program. I had a chance to stop and talk with him earlier today about his game and being a taller corner, and here's what he had to say. Yeah, because here's the thing, man. I like tall, big corners that can play.
Yeah.
A lot of times people say, oh, he's a big guy and they can't move. But you can move like a fluid, shorter guy about my height.
Yeah.
Where does that level of athleticism come from? And do you feel as though people still don't understand how good of a corner you are because you're so tall?
I mean, that's definitely one of the things that's probably the knock. I mean, it's the blessing and the curse. I'm 6'3" at the end of the day playing corner. So, of course, they're going to be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to question his top end speed. Can he run? You know what I'm saying? Can he move? Is his hip fluid? So, at the end of the day, that's just one of the things that I kind of just know is always going to be a constant knock on me. So, at the end of the day, that's the things I'm constantly working on. When I train, you know what I'm saying, I'm focusing on my pad level. I'm making sure I'm low. You know what I'm saying? I'm training like I'm 5'10". You know what I'm saying? I'm training with littler guys. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I really train to play DB. So, like, it's one of the things like, with repetition and stuff like that, as long as you stretching and staying loose, you're gonna be able to come out your breaks just like anybody else, as long as you put the time in. So that's pretty much what I've been doing this whole time. That's pretty much what I'm gonna continue doing, just to keep improving.
Well, that's what I don't understand is the fact that people look at you and say, okay, they project things that you can't do. Yeah. But if you're doing it, you're doing it. When you're going out there against these smaller receivers, obviously you've done that as a tall guy your whole life. Yeah. What are some of the aspects that give you a bit of an advantage in facing receivers that may be shorter or quicker?
I mean, it's just one of them things where pretty much like it plays a factor both ways. Say, for example, with a taller receiver, them the ones I want. You know what I'm saying? I can match up with them well. You know what I'm saying? They big bodies. I can get my hands on them fast. But at the same time, the work I done put in and my ability, I'm also able to guard the little ones. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much that's why I kind of like when I got a little receiver in front of me, a faster, quicker guy. Because at the end of the day, that's going to show my quickness. That's going to show me better get in and out of my breaks. That's going to show me keeping up with littler guys. You know what I'm saying? And on top of these long arms, you feel me? My height. I mean, all I got to do is get in phase, and half the time, the receiver ain't gonna be able to see around me, you know what I'm saying? So I'm blessed in many ways that God gave me a lot of talent, a lot of, you know what I'm saying, God-given ability. So for the most part, I mean, like I say, I just be me, and I just try to put my best self on film. And at the end of the day, if you watch a film and you really know football, you're gonna know like that boy can play football.
That's what stood out to me. Is like this dude can play some ball, and what I like most is the fact that you have ball skills.
Yes, sir.
Pet peeve of mine is when cornerbacks don't find the ball.
Yeah.
You turn and find the ball. A lot of people are afraid to turn around because they may lose track of the receiver.
Yeah.
You know when the ball's in the air, it's your ball.
Yeah.
Where does that mindset come from? Because you do see a lot of DBs panic out there on the corner. You don't panic.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm also one of them guys who didn't play corner until I was a junior in high school.
Gotcha.
I got a big offensive background, you know what I'm saying? I always was a receiver. I always was a slot. I played H-back. I played quarterback, you know what I'm saying? So that's where a lot of my shiftiness and my, you know, my ability came from, just the pure fact of being a California kid, you know what I'm saying? Always had playing offense, just always wanted to make people miss, you know what I'm saying? So I always kind of wanted to break people down. I always wanted to wrap cones. I always kind of did receiver stuff, running back stuff. So when I made the switch to DB, I mean, I kind of just took it all and just put it on the other side of the ball. You know, now I'm just backpedaling. Now I'm going forward. You know what I'm saying? And like I say, I was always blessed with great athleticism, so I was able to make the transition and make it smooth as possible.
Now, you've seen a lot of ups and downs at Nebraska.
Yes, sir.
But that gives you a lot of perspective. So when you look at Nebraska and how you play, what is it about that program that you say, you know what, that's a special program. I'm glad I went to Nebraska because it helped develop me as a player.
I mean, that's one thing about Nebraska. Like, even though the only knock about Nebraska is the pure fact that I wish I'd have been walking around with a ring. I wish I'd have got a little bit more significance, you know what I'm saying? Postseason wins, something like that, you know what I'm saying? But it's just one of them things where at the end of the day, I'd never say nothing bad about Nebraska because it really shaped me to be the man I am today, you know what I'm saying? I went through so many coaches, so many people impacted my life, so many people helped in the development where I'm in today, you know what I'm saying? I had 3 different position coaches, I had 2 DCs, I had 2 head coaches, I had to deal with so many different personalities, so many people that at the end of the day, I learned how to adapt. I learned how to be, you know what I'm saying, just be coachable. You know what I'm saying? Each coach kind of left instilled something in me. If it was to compete, if it was to finish, if it was to track the ball, you know what I'm saying? Somebody left something with me, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, that's why I appreciate Nebraska. On top of all the other little off the field aspects of just, you know, just being somewhere different, being uncomfortable. Going from California, going to the Midwest, going to see snow, you know what I'm saying? Playing in the cold rather than playing in the sun, you know what I'm saying? Now I feel like I'm well equipped for any challenge at task, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, like I say, Nebraska was a blessing for me, and I'm happy I went there.
Well, you showed it out on the field. You did a great job out there. Talking to you, I know you have a lot of passion. You love the game, man.
Yeah.
That's what I love about you. You see it out there on the field.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking time, man. We wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me.
Like many other All-Star games out there, the Senior Bowl is set up pretty much the same way. Players come in on a Sunday. They got tested and met with NFL scouts on Monday. Tuesday morning was when everything sort of kicked off. You had the weigh-ins where everyone was seeing the correct height and weight from these guys that walked out onto the stage. So you got correct height and weight now at the Senior Bowl as opposed to waiting until the combine. And then the guys hit the field in the afternoon on a brisk day here in the Gulf South. They did a great job in performing in front of the scouts, both NFL and CFL. I saw some XFL scouts out there as well. So guys went through one practice on Tuesday. They'll have another practice on Wednesday and another practice on Thursday. Now, Friday is closed off to the media. These guys also get the rest. They get to meet with some fans on Friday at a fan-friendly event. And then on Saturday is the Senior Bowl game. So today was one of those days where we got to see guys get out there for the first time, move around, run around, and we'll come back after this break with Chris James, our draft analyst, and talk a little bit about what we saw here on day one at the 2020 Reese's Senior Bowl. So again, stay tuned here. Keep it locked on the Game Plus Network. We will take a short, quick commercial break and be back with more Football Game Plan's Scout Team live from the Reese's Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Financial Coaching LLC, Investment, Retirement, Security. Stewardship Credit. Financial growth is in your hands. StewardshipCredit.com. Adrienne Marie Photo, photographer, writer, management. AdrienneMariePhotography.com. Lock Multimedia. And welcome back to Football Game Plan Scout Team here on the Game Plus Network. Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, with Chris James at the 2020 Reese's Senior Bowl. Chris, it's the last stop on our All-Star Game travels. The Senior Bowl is usually the one that culminates everything. When you look at what this game is about, what were some of your initial thoughts coming into this week of work?
I really wanted to see how the quarterbacks were going to function. We had some high-level quarterbacks who could go really early in this draft, so I wanted to see how they dealt with, the different people that they're going to be working with, as well as the conditions that are out here. It's a little nippy.
Yeah, it's about, I want to say 38 degrees, wind chill, probably in the 20s or so, but it's real cold out here to say we're in the Gulf South.
Right.
That's something they're going to have to deal with. It's supposed to warm up as the week goes on, maybe a little shower on Thursday, but Saturday for the game, we should see very good conditions, and that's going to be ultimately how these guys are judged and how well they are able to work through the week and how able to work through these conditions, adverse situations, not used to the coaching staff, not used to the players that they're working with. So there's a lot that they have to take in and go with preparing for this game. Now let's get to what happens on the field.
Right.
South practice first. Jalen Hurts was one of the headliners coming in along with Justin Herbert, but who are some of the guys that stood out to you initially from this morning's practice?
Some people say the skill guys. I just say the exterior guys. So the receivers and also the DBs. They stood out. That's where I saw the competition going heavy and hard. And one guy that stood out was a Southern guy, Tyree Cleveland. He really ran excellent routes, transitioned well, and brought the ball into his body extremely well.
Yeah, you talk about guys that are able to play really well. I looked at the linebacker Cam Brown from Penn State. I thought he had a really good day-to-day in one-on-ones because he's a longer, taller outside linebacker,
Yes.
built kind of like a receiver or a tight end, but he's out there covering. He did well today in one-on-ones. He had linebackers going with the running back, so I thought he did a great job. And going back to the offense, I wanted to see how these quarterbacks threw the football, and I thought,
Right.
Herbert showed enough arm strength to cut through this wind that's out here today. Hurts had his moments, but I thought those two guys, along with Montez, who has probably the strongest arm out here,
Absolutely.
had their moments throwing the football. So who were some of the guys that stood out to you?
Actually, another Gator receiver, Van Jefferson. Not only did he catch the ball well, he never looked like he broke stride when he was running routes. That's really hard to do when you're working with new quarterbacks, a new system, being asked to do certain things, so he really stood out to me today.
Duvernay as well from Texas had a really good day. There was a corner out here from UCLA. His name slips me, but
I think it's Darnell Holmes.
Darnay Holmes had a really good day. He brought usually there's one guy at practice that has like the mouth of the practice, and he was that guy, but he played really well, backed it up. I thought they did a really good job today. The Texas receivers, everything we saw from the South team had those impact players. Now, moving on to the North side, when you look at the North team, you're dealing with Jordan Love, the quarterback from Utah State. He's the headliner coming in. What were your thoughts on Jordan Love prior to this All-Star game?
Threw one of the best balls that I've seen from a quarterback this season. And that's something that's going to stand out because you always need a guy who can actually move the ball down the field. And it's an impressive way that he moved the ball down the field. Today he did have his moments. Sometimes he had some struggles, but overall you saw that talent shine through.
Yeah, I was also impressed with the wide receiver from Baylor. Mims was a physical presence, almost Dez Bryant-like, and what he was able to do out here with these cornerbacks and the blocking drills. He was physical. He had a really good day against Lamar Jackson doing his job there as well. So I thought Mims did a great job from Baylor, proving his worth out here in front of scouts.
And today, for me from the North, it was actually the interior guys. Defensive lineman, I think, out of North Carolina, Strobridge.
Yeah, Strobridge, outstanding.
Oh, my goodness. He ran completely through an offensive lineman today. Had a lot of quality moves. He actually had a counter move, which for some guys, they don't have that. So I like what he showed today in practice. Let's see if he can do that tomorrow.
But that's going to be the biggest thing. How can guys stack positive performances on top of one another? Because it's about your consistency. You can do it one day, you could do it one rep, but can you do it over the course of 3 days with intense pressure and scrutiny with these scouts out here watching you? And this is their biggest job interview outside of the combine.
Absolutely. They really need to shine through, and today was a good start for them.
Well, you talk about like the quarterback play. We talked about interior offensive line. There were some guys that got called up, and 2 of them are in this game. You look at Charlie Heck, whose dad played in the NFL for a long time. You also look at McTelvin, a Jim from Arkansas. Both guys I saw last week at the EastWest Shrine Bowl got the call up here. I thought they performed well.
And that's the thing, is when you get the call up, you have to come through. And so far, so good for both guys.
It's a little cold out here, man.
It is absolutely
it's cold, and watching these guys
Mobile.
have that success and fight through that adversity, because especially those guys, Last week at the Shrine Bowl, it was
Perfect
indoors, but now we're out here in the cold. But
Exactly.
we'll step aside for a minute, take a look at some of these highlights from today's practice here at the 2020 Reese's Senior Bowl. So that's a wrap for this edition of Scout Team. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. Don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/Football Game Plan. Also, subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating. Keep it locked here on the Game Plus Network the rest of the week. As Thursday, you can find our NFL All 32 show with David Hashagen, Jennifer Mary Wyka, Alex Marinoni, and also Troy Anthony bring you all of the news, notes, and tidbits from around the NFL. That's 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time here on the Game Plus Network.